Okay, absolutely flush their toes. And there's a certain checkpoint in the backswing that I want to make players aware of that could be really beneficial to helping them really strike the golf ball better and compress it, okay?
Yeah.
And so what I want you to do is set up to this ball facing the camera for me.
Absolutely.
Swing right to the top. And what we're going to notice with Toby is almost going to be one nice big straight line from his ankle all the way up to just underneath his arm. Now, this here, we see a lot of players by at this stage of the swing would be a little bit too much this way. Essentially, for an iron, if you're not compressing it, you're getting too far behind the ball. And if you start from your address, Toby,
yeah,
the hips would start to move and shift in such a way where they get into this position. Maybe they're trying to come from the inside or stay down.
Yes.
But if you do that same move and stop at the top, you're going to see that we've got this sort of concave shape where the hips would be kind of the apex of that concave shape there. Now, we see the best ball strikers with all the representations that we'll have up on the screen here in slow-mo create almost this straight line here.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I want you to talk about the 3 ways that the spine moves throughout the golf swing. We've got the turn, the tilt, and the
extension.
Yeah,
yes.
Perfect. So if I put this golf club across my chest here, Tobes, if I'm a player and I see that I've got this concave look, what don't I have in my backswing?
Well, you've definitely just turned, I would say, and you haven't tilted, and you haven't therefore been able to extend your thoracic through your spine there. So if you start that again, for the amateur golfer at home is using any form of analysis tool, right, that we use in our coaching, I'll draw a circle around Kerrit's head, and you'll see that when you do the incorrect one again, so your chest stays in flexion, the head has then come out of the circle. So if we can do our very best to try and keep that head within a circle, that's a goal of ours. So if you're looking for an outcome here to make sure, am I doing this correctly, draw that circle around the head, or use a reference, like I'll use something at home, a net behind me to see where my head is in space. So now take the correct one for me. So what we'll see here, Kerrit's slightly risen up, so he'll be in kind of that still within that circle circumference there around his head. He's turned, he's tilted, and he's extended through the top of his spine here to get to that position there. So that's the correct movements for the body pivot. A couple of reasons that we like it, absolutely, obviously, is in regards to not having that flexion over here. But for the golfer, right, who finds themselves, they're going to say that they've got too much weight left on the back foot. There's lots of abundance of issues that are going to come from it, right? So not only has you've got your spine moving correctly, you've stayed more centered, your mass and everything's in the right position, but that easy alignment that we're looking for today is that line straight up through that trail leg, straight up into that kind of right shoulder region there.
Yeah.
And that's the alignments that we're looking for, and they're the 2 I'd be looking for.
I've done a bunch of videos with Chris Mason, who's taught a slew of major winners. He courses about this big stretch cycle.
Yes.
And Pete Cowan, spiral staircase.
Yes.
There's a lot of different ways to talk about it, but essentially it's the feeling that you're almost creating this huge stretch from the top of your back shoulder here from where your front foot is. And as we do that, we're going to see this nice big long line like this. And that gives you that kind of powerful look. If you look at someone like Rory to the top of the swing, he's rising up. That's going to help you shift your pressure better and keep you centered to be able to then create more force in that transition, increasing your club head speed and compression, right? So creating that nice big stretch to the top.
Yeah, and it's absolutely, I think it's really crucial what you're doing there is that we're looking at this from just as we're measuring from the camera point of view in a position of the golf swing. We're not particularly going to try and go, yes, tick, I can go. It's just something that we're looking for to make sure that golfer is moving correctly. So let's just do what the golfer would be doing if they're doing it incorrectly. So can you just go to left arm level to the ground for me, right? So from here, we do absolutely have a little bit of movement off the golf ball. We do like a little bit of that, right? But what happens here is you move the upper body too far off the golf ball, right? Yeah. So just show me what ideal would look like. So come back down to the start for me. And just shift a little bit off the golf ball into lead arm level to the ground to here. Now from here, we're going to have ourselves at around about 80, 70 degrees of kind of shoulder turn by this point in time here, right? We've still got about only about a third done of our hip rotation here, right? But what we're looking to try and do here, for the golfer who's staying too flexed and not getting that look that they're looking for, we're going to get the buttons on the shirt to look more towards the sky. Absolutely. So remember that when a golfer is doing something incorrect, so for Kerrit's sake, he's moving too far this way here, that golfer needs to feel 200% in the opposite way. So it's like chest to the sky, really hard trying to get that up there to get yourself what it feels like to be in the right position, and then draw that line and hopefully you've crossed that bridge a little bit and then you're in the right spot.
Yeah, and the player who would be keeping their chest down for too long, creating this concave shape, they're definitely going to struggle with low point issues of where they're going to be striking behind the golf ball.
Yeah.
Now, the first few times you do this, you might feel like you're reverse pivoting, okay? Now, that is just a sensation or a feel because it's so different from what you're doing it. And look, you can get away with driver from being behind the ball, but the only reason is because the ball's teed up, you've got a little bit of give there.
Absolutely.
But with every other shot when the ball's on the ground, we want to stay nice and centered.
Absolutely, yeah. With driver, like you're saying, we can definitely get away with it, but the feeling of reverse pivot is exactly what I want you to feel.
Yeah.
Because what feels normal to you is not where you want to be. So I would be using demonstrations of someone like a Scotty Scheffler.
There's a reason you're watching this video in the first place.
Yes, yeah. So someone like a Scotty Scheffler, you know, he goes okay. And when we look at Scotty at the top of the backswing, what we're going to see is that we use the centers here. So we use the sternum and the center of the pelvis as a measurement point when you hear them talk about the word centers or term centers in the golf swing, right? He's going to have this right up on top of each other. And then when you draw a line from my left hip up to my left shoulder there, it's going to be quite vertical. Now that's going to result in hands going to be slightly higher. And Scotty Scheffler, when you measure him, he's around about 0 to 1 degrees of this here. So for the golfer who's too far this way, we could say that upwards of 20 to 30 degrees, right? We need to get them to go feel like a reverse pivot, and I can guarantee you, if you film it, record it, you will not be reverse pivoting.
Yeah, and it's a very easy way to increase your club head speed as well. Great analogy to use is if I'm going to chop wood and I just move my arms up and down, there's only so much force, but if I allow my spine to extend and then compress, well, then you're shifting more pressure into the ground, which then directly applies going into the head of that instrument that you're using, in this case, the golf club. Go and shell one down there for us.
Yeah, so I'm going to feel that big stretch. I'm going to get my chest to the sky. So I'm going to push this way here, chest to the sky.
Love
and
it.
that's actually going to cross this line here that we're looking for, isn't it? So we want to actually push the boundaries a little bit more. It's going to feel like I'm miles ahead of that golf ball. Going to come in. It's going to increase my AOA. I'm going to launch it.
Beautiful. So as you can see, guys, just like that,